if we were to hit pause, take a deep breath, and look at the situation from a 30,000-foot angle, we all would come to the same conclusion. Clemson drastically underachieved expectations in 2023. Yes, 9-4 is a good record for most teams, but when you carry the pedigree of Dabo Swinney and have a very winnable pathway to claim the ACC title, 9-4 is never going to cut it. And so the question turns to going into a new era of college football. And yes, 2024 is a new era of college football with conference realignment and expansion to the playoffs. The question turns to, have the Tigers done enough this offseason to remain contenders in the ACC? Let's go ahead and discuss. But if you are new here, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. Leave a comment telling me your thoughts on the Clemson Tigers in 2024. Are they trending upward? Are things still idle? Does Dabo need to be shown the door? Tell your friends, your family, your mortal enemies, best of bros, the drunk dude passed out in a Waffle House parking lot, ACC fans, college football aficionados, and Clemson Tiger faithful everywhere about this channel, because we're on the race and soon will be the #1 YouTube show talking college football daily. Continue to follow me on social media, Twitter, X, Instagram. Slide into my DMs. Send me an email at Mr. Cole Thompson. That way, conversations surrounding our favorite sport never have to stop flowing. So, Clemson, 9-4 last year, drastically were not meeting the criteria of what we know about the Tigers. This is a monumental year for Dabo Swinney, and it's not because I don't think the Tigers can be good. I actually do think that we are actually underselling them a little bit at this point. I just think that there are still so many question marks going into the year that we won't have an answer until probably November. This could be a team that ends up running the table, holding their own, and beating everybody in their path all the way to Charlotte. This also could be a team that still finishes with 4 losses. They still are not attacking the portal in the way that they see fit, but more on that in a little bit. They also have a very rigorous schedule at the start of the year to where you are not entirely confident in them. Here's where you should feel positive. Number one, your offensive coordinator is not going anywhere, and he is a stud. I know Garrett Riley ruffled some wrong feathers that were orange and purple, but I promise you, there was a reason why he was a Broyles Award winner. There was a reason why TCU got to the college football playoff and made it all the way to the national championship. Well, that's your offensive coordinator, and he is going to be probably building off of last season. They also return almost the entire offense. I think if they lose one player, that's about it. Cade Klubnik coming back, that's going to be monumental for his development. I really think Antonio Hamilton is going to hit at wide receiver. Will Shipley, human highlight reel, can do a little bit of everything. There is reason to believe that this offense is trending upward. The defense, overall, still fundamentally sound. It always has been. But the question turns to, without the transfer portal being utilized the proper way, are we going to see anything different? They start off the schedule about as hard as you can get. They travel down to Atlanta to play Georgia. Here's where you will know if you want to find a baseline about where you stand in the ranks of college football. Play Georgia at a neutral site location that really isn't a neutral site because it's right up the road from Athens in a major stadium to start off your year. Yeah, that's a recipe for either disaster or dismay. Either way, it's not positive for a team like Clemson. Then afterwards, they go ahead and they face off against Appalachian State. Then they play NC State. NC State got a new quarterback, Grayson McCall. This is a team every year. They fit the idolization of Tier 2. Can get some upset wins, can lose some games they probably should win. That's what you know. And then they close out the year with kind of a schedule that is more so in their favor at Pitt versus the Citadel, at home against South Carolina. All those games are manageable. But the question turns to, what else needs to be added? And can anything be added? Clemson is one of those programs that could look at a transfer portal and say, good player, but didn't want to commit to us initially. Why are we going to commit to them? Dabo has things and laurels and idols that are set in his ways, and he salivates over like when watching a 5-star quarterback play football. That is what is his MO. And for the most part, it's worked. You go back and you look at the history of Clemson from 2015 to 2019. Can anybody tell me how many games they lost in the regular season? 3. They were epic. They were dominant. They were physical. They were amazing offensively. Every piece was fundamentally sound. Defensively, they were able to create mismanages and microisms that opened up opportunities for this team to be highly effective. And they just dismantled everybody, which is why we gave them the persona of what they have. They're 30-10 in their last 3 years. Last year was the culmination of immediate drop-off. And I think that this was a move that needed to happen in Clemson. You had to show Dabo, you may be a great coach. There are great coaches all throughout college football. And there are. Dabo still, in my opinion, as many people want to say, Dabo has lost a bit of his charm. He wasn't going to be the guy at Alabama. Doesn't take away from what he's done. Doesn't take away from what he is. Doesn't take away from what he can be if he's willing to make some necessary changes. But changes have to come. Changes came for a guy like Ryan Day. They've come for a guy like Lincoln Riley. They came for Nick Saban of all people. Dabo's not suffice to it. Dabo's not immune to making changes. Now, he's immune to if he chooses to do that, and then he has to pay the consequences. I deal with some issues throughout my personal life all the time, and I say this saying as much as possible. Your reaction is based off of your actions, but your reaction has consequences. Everything in life comes with a consequence. So Dabo doesn't have to work the transfer portal. Here's the thing, though. What if they are? What if actually this past offseason, Clemson was going out and they were calling players and they were sending out offers and they were saying, we want to add in players? Well, it's just like when you go ahead and take a test and you show all your work, but you still get the wrong answer and you get your grade back and you go, but I showed all my work. I did all this. Look, yeah, well, the answer is still wrong. That's the stick, kid. 77, not an 85. Best of luck to you on the next test. That's the transfer portal. It's cool that you're sending out offers. It's great that you're calling every Tom, Dick, and Jane that's out there. But if they don't commit to you, you don't get a participation trophy for changing your ways. You still got to bring in the right talent. And they haven't done that yet. They haven't been able to land a premier wide receiver for the last several seasons. Justin Ross was really the last prominent name that was a pass catcher. And every single offseason, you just watch as this team needs wide receiver help. And countless pass catchers enter the portal. None ever don that white paw. None ever don the orange helmet. Why? It's the main question. And it's one that's going to, I think, really set the tone for what we know about Clemson moving forward. I believe in this team. I do. I think that when you have a coach like Dabo who was able to rally the troops and still be able to come out in years where you have questions and concerns, like go back to 2022. That was a year where many people said, oh my God, Clemson's falling apart. We can't trust their quarterback in DJU. We know that their offense is anemic as all hell. Anybody remember what they did? They won the ACC. They won the ACC and they played Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. That was Clemson in a down year. So you can't tell me that simply because the changing times of college football are going to pass up Dabo. We won't have that answer for, I would say, at least another 2 years. But once we get that answer, it's going to become evident. Change either has to continue to fall or what Dabo is doing is right. And if he's doing things right, it's kind of like Brian Kelly doing a foghorn leghorn accent in Baton Rouge. No one's going to care. If you're still producing 11 plus wins, getting to the conference titles and having multiple playoff wins where you're inching closer to a national championship, cool. We don't need the transfer portal. Our transfer portal and our NIL collective, they can just go take an off day for all we care. We don't need them this time around until you do. So it's a monumental year for Clemson because they still can be the Clemson of old. They still can be a team that fights for conference titles. They still can be a team that punches their ticket to the playoff. They have a roster. Don't doubt it for a second. Their roster is fine. It's not elite anymore like it used to be. It's no longer getting top 10 classes. Go look at their last three their last three recruiting classes. 10th, 12th, 15th. They're recruiting at a good level, not an elite level, but maybe good is good enough when you have the right play callers, the right coordinators, and the right coaches in the building. But does Dabo have that? That'll be a question he'll have to answer this year. And once we kind of get a baseline, we'll know if change is coming or not. Change is necessary for every coach in college football. If you want to get with the times, you're going to have to humble yourself. Last season, Eli Drinkwitz realized the play calling was no longer in his disposal. So hands the job off to Kirby Moore. They get 11 wins. You look at a guy like Les Miles going into his final season at LSU, hitched his wagon to Cam Cameron. Cameron was not the answer at offense coordinator. And so when Scott Woodward marched in and said, Cam, you're fired. Guess what? Les, you stuck your neck out for him. We got to let you go too. That could be the case. The grass isn't always greener because of change, but change is always going to be necessary. Will the right change come to Clemson is the main question. They could be a team that easily still finds their way deep into the college football playoff, gets a couple wins and holds their own in the ACC. They also could be a team that goes 9-4, and we're talking about them in early November. Is Dabo going to retire? Is this the end of an era in South Carolina? Are we going to see the other team with Shane Beamer actually surpass them? All viable questions. All answers we won't have for quite some time. But I do think that Clemson right now can make the most this season. This is a year, though, where we are going to figure out what will Clemson be moving forward if Dabo isn't willing to adapt. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.